Welcome everyone to Love Like Hate. This is where I talk about films that I have not seen in a theater and or never had the opportunity to see until much later. This is my first Love Like Hate review in a while, but not my first rendition of a review like this. There are plenty more like this on my channel, but it's not with the same focus as I'm doing now. Today, I am going to be talking about To Kill a Mockingbird. To Kill a Mockingbird is directed by Robert Mulligan, and it stars many people I'm sorry to say I was never familiar with growing up in the movies because, well, the times were not in my favor. It stars Gregory Peck, of course, Mary Bedham, if I'm supposed to say Bedham or Bedham, I could be completely wrong, sorry about that. Philip Alford, and a couple of other people, and one I did recognize for sure, who I actually do like, and that is the great Robert Duvall. Very interesting because this was his first debut in film, I do believe. So a little back history for you, and there's really not much to it. It's more like this is where I'm coming from. So when you're getting this review from me, you're kind of like, okay, what's the point of him reviewing it? It's definitely a big thing. I have seen how it's culturally impacted today, and the people who were alive then still make big deals about it because it's still very a raw subject. When Harper Lee made To Kill a Mockingbird, it was a cultural phenomenon, and sadly, for me, I'm a very distracted reader, and I couldn't sit down long enough to finally find an interest in the book. What was it about? I don't know. To Kill a Mockingbird, it's just some metaphor that I can't get behind. I know that when people say, this is literature you need to read, I literally go, okay. I just only wish that there was somebody that actually sat down and talked with me and said, listen, this is a good book to read. Here's what it's about. Here's how it's told. Just give it a shot and go for it. Because sadly, at that time, it was just not something that I thought was going to be anything worth merit for me. I never really forgot about it. I never knew exactly what this book was about any more than the movie. And both were just like, okay, not appealing at this moment, but here it is now with a better perspective and a better angle to where I finally get to go, let's give this a shot. And at least for the reading perspective, I still need to read the book. But I did get a chance to pick up the Blu-ray at my work, and I felt, this is probably a perfect opportunity to really get into this and really look at, in a better mindset and a better perspective, what was this movie about. And I'm not just some guy who goes into every film that everyone says is a classic and go, oh yeah, it was great. I have liked movies that everybody's hated, and I have loved movies that not everybody can get behind. And then I've also disliked things that people were like, why? This is amazing. Everyone says it's amazing. I don't just gush and fall into place like everybody else. You gotta have to give me a reason. What made this movie so great for everybody else? And to be honest with you, starting it off, it didn't feel spectacular at first. Everything went by normally. It was just setup, and it's through the perspective of the kids, and that's especially Scout and Dill and Jem. It was just through these kids' eyes. And that's literally what this movie's about. All the social inequality, the justice of it all, everything is through these kids' eyes. And I spent a good majority kind of just like, okay, I understand that like the first 20 minutes is great setup between characters and all that stuff, and I'm seeing the makings of a great film, but I'm not getting its impact. What's going on? And like I said, through the kids' perspectives, you're the audience member, and so are they, so to speak, because whenever they find stuff out, that's when you find stuff out. So the kids are saying, hey, that's the neighbor so-and-so. Hey, that's the person so-and-so. You got to really think about, why is this important? What's going on with this person? And you find out later what kind of role they play. Through the perspective of the kids, they talk about certain neighbors that are either very nasty, reclusive, or very kind. But the biggest focus is this reclusive man who never came out of his house. Like, for a good long while, from the time that at least Jem noticed, he is not come out of his house, and they call him and refer him to by Boo. And it was just kind of one of those mysterious, intriguing aspects of the film as as the first act and into the second act progress. I guess, Jem was sort of kind of like poking the bear, like, oh, let's go over to the house and let's see what we can do. Let's see what we can find. And hell, even Atticus, the father of Jem and Scout, kind of advises them, don't do that. With that whole perspective with the kids, there is a beautiful transition into Atticus's side to all of this. And as I said, Atticus is the father of these two kids. And you only get brief glimpses of what Atticus is up to in the first couple of acts. They slowly marry shots, they slowly marry dialogue and moments that transition into Atticus's perspective, and it was beautiful. Like, I loved how, like, there was a scene where Jem and Scout were just talking about their mother. Like, Scout doesn't remember her mother that much, but Jem does, and she was asking him many different questions, like, was she pretty? Did she love me? Did I love her? And then it slowly just transitions into Atticus on a patio on a swing, just kind of self-reflecting to himself, probably hearing the kids' conversation before the court case finally starts making its way in. It's masterful work to, okay, you're talking about something huge, something big, the racial inequality, what's going on, what is it that's driving this book, this movie, this plot? And you're starting to get it. Kids are going to experience something huge that's happening as they are young. So something is going to be a turning point for them that makes them learn this big lesson. And I feel like what makes this movie so great is that this is a lesson we always need to learn, no matter what. But with Atticus, I never quite understood Gregory Peck's performance at this point. Like, okay, and this is still early on in the movie, you know, so I'm like, okay, wait a second type thing. But so far, he's just sort of, not necessarily withdrawn, but very contemplative in the first couple of things. He's very on top of everything, and even the voiceover narration says he's sort of on top of everything. And then we get to the third act, and everything literally pays off. Everything, down from the metaphor To Kill a Mockingbird to, you know, booze, reclusiveness, to the kids and their curiosity, and just based off of everything, everything pays off in this third act. This is what I would call excellent storytelling. And I felt the impact that it was going for. By the end, I fell in love with every shot, every moment, every piece of dialogue by its third act, especially with the court case when it came to the accusations against this young black male who was basically accused of raping a certain individual in this town. And I'm not giving away any spoilers, but there were moments where I was like, wow, wow. I mean, let's put it to you this way. Gregory Peck talks, I would say almost for 6 minutes straight, with intervals of just maybe 1 or 2 cuts of different people reacting to him talking. And if had they not broken that up, Atticus would have spoken for 6 minutes straight over the matter at hand to plead to the jury not to find Tom Robinson guilty. And it was just like, I had to rewatch it a couple of times to just sit there and really soak in his words. There were moments where it just floored me, and it really shed a limelight on the character of Atticus, and especially these kids and how much they cared. I fell in love with every single shot there afterwards. I just couldn't get enough. I didn't want it to end. I wanted it to keep going. I got really sad in some areas, and it just made me respect this film, and I'm really glad that I was able to see it now, but I feel terrible not seeing it sooner. And I wish that I was able to appreciate it then, but I am able to appreciate it now. So that kind of is the way it is for me, and this is my perspective. I'm just a youngster who is loving movies, and if I'm going to love movies, might as well go for the classics, and To Kill a Mockingbird is definitely one of them. It's almost like To Kill a Mockingbird is the start of a sentence, and you fill in the gap. I definitely recommend this film. If you get a chance to check it out, please do. If you already love this movie, please let me know down below what are some of the scenes that you really, really loved. And hell, if you're somebody who actually wants to get into it, let me know as soon as you see it what you think. But that wraps up my thoughts for today on this movie. Sorry, this was a bit of a long video. There was just so much to say. But yeah, I'm very intrigued by this movie, and maybe one day I'll get a chance to read the book. But I really found this adaptation just truly excellent. And for that, of course, when it comes down to the ratings, you guys already know where this is going. I loved it, and of course, I bought it on Blu-ray. Check out my other things that I do on my channel. I go from movie reviews to TV show reviews, trying to get into more older films and also just films I haven't seen in general. Let me know what you think, and I would really appreciate having a conversation with you if you have a second. And thank you all so much for watching. You guys are the best. If you get a chance, turn on those notifications if you want to subscribe or haven't already. And just check out the description box down below. Everything else is there for you. You all have a fantastic and wonderful day, and I will see you guys sometime in the future.